This is David Knight reporting for Infowars Live. I'm at the site of the Bundy Ranch standoff with the BLM. The BLM has backed down, and we're waiting for them to release the cattle. It was a very tense scene. We had a line of mounted cowboys, a huge number of people. The BLM was telling everyone to back down. They had weapons. They would shoot. That's what they were saying over the live PA system. They were saying that they would shoot. They were pointing guns at people hiding behind their cars, fully armed in their bulletproof vests. And the people slowly and calmly walked up to the area. After a while, a BLM representative came out and wanted to talk to the Bundys and said that they would release the cattle. They needed a half hour to get the cattle together and bring them up to the area. They didn't want to negotiate with the BLM, and eventually they had the local sheriff come in. You can see the traffic jam here on I-15. It's huge, going both ways. When the sheriff came, they negotiated with the sheriff. Everybody was happy to deal with lawful authorities instead of the bullies of the BLM. And you can see the helicopter up there. This is a no-fly zone. These are obviously the government helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft. And they would deal with the sheriff. And as we talked to them, we've got some video footage. Josh Owens took some great video footage of the BLM, militarized BLM, standing down. Actually, they didn't stand down. They kind of walked backwards with their guns still held up. Kind of a mix between a goose step and a moonwalk. It was really good to see them back down and leave the area, pull their trucks out. That's what Clive Bundy told the sheriff earlier today. And that's what they got. They're moving from that area at least. We'll see if they're going to turn in their weapons and if they're going to remove the areas. You can see the SWAT team over there. This is a staging area that I'm looking at. You can see there's a lot of police vehicles still over there, a lot of news media, a massive, massive traffic jam along I-15 because of this. People are waiting for the cattle to be released, and you can see the traffic jam. It takes a long way in both directions. Traffic is not moving. So we've had a good resolution of this so far. The BLM stood down to the people, and it looks like they're going to get the cattle released at this point, and it was great to see the BLM actually walking backwards. I'm going to go down and see if I can get a shot of the ravine where they're going to be releasing the cattle. The cattle have been cooped up for several days, a couple hundred head of cattle, so it is a dangerous situation with a lot of spectators. They've got a lot of cowboys there to round up the cattle. They want to make sure the spectators were out of the culvert where the cattle were going to be, because they figure they'd be pretty high-spirited after all this time. And the people down here are just as excited to get a taste of freedom as the cows are, actually. It got down to a point where we're either going to get the cattle or we're going to be the cattle. And it's time for everybody to take back their freedoms from this government here that is creating rules at a furious pace with unelected bureaucracies and imposing them with the full force of martial law. That's what's going on, not only here, but everywhere. What's different about this situation is they met a man, Clive Bundy, very meek man, but as tough as nails. And he is not going to stand down. He's not going to be bullied and run out of business. The media easily demagogues this by saying that this is all about him not paying his grazing fees. No, it was about the BLM putting all these ranchers out of business, reducing their herd sizes by 90%, and then telling them that they were not even going to be able to graze at all for several months out of the year, the prime months out of the year. Now, as I'm approaching the overpass, people have been standing up here at the overpass. There's a lot of cars that are down there, as well as a lot of people that are still down there. We were unable to get any cell phone coverage where we could really see anything, so we have a lot of footage that will be uploaded later at Infowars.com. You said we have some great footage of the BLM walking backwards with their guns. They're trying to be real tough about it, but they're standing down. Still certainly last night, they enacted a 30-day no-fly zone over this area. I'm concerned that they've given him everything that he wants. And then, when people stand down, that they will come in and attack. That's the concern. Now, of course, just last night, Infowars.com reported the connection between Harry Reid, his son Roy Reid, who is a lobbyist for a Chinese energy company, ENN, trying to put in what I believe will be the largest solar construction project ever, a $5 billion construction project. And of course, massive corruption payoff involved in that. Harry Reid's, one of his senior staffers, is now the director of the BLM. And Kit Daniels at Infowars.com discovered the link in the archives of the internet showing that in order for this project to move forward, they had to remove Cliven Bundy and his so-called trespass cattle. The trespassers were actually the BLM. But they needed to get him out so they could proceed with this project, this $5 billion project, to hand over the surface rights essentially to a Chinese company. I don't know who Harry Reid was going to sell the mineral rights and the oil rights and the gas rights to. But basically, Harry Reid and the gang of thieves in Washington are looting this country. They're doing it under the color of law by using new codes, new regulations that they're creating by the thousands in every one of these bureaucracies, and then using that to drive people out of business. It doesn't really matter what your business is. They can drive you out in no time at all. Now, what I'm doing is I'm running it. This is the culvert area where all the action took place.
I don't think it's over.
You don't think it's over? Some lady just came back. She said she doesn't think it's over. I think they're waiting for the cattle to come up, but it has been longer than the 30 minutes that they said it was going to take. Right now, at this point, where there was a small army of BLM, there are now some sheriffs standing down there, and they have moved the crowd back. Now we got some cowboys coming forward on horses, and I believe they're going to, what they have told the Bundy family and the supporters here was they wanted people to move out of that culvert there, and they're going to release the cattle. They want people to get back so the cattle don't trample, and the cattle have been cooped up for quite some time. So this is the scene here. Massive traffic jam on I-15, going both ways. People stopping their cars, spectating, see what's going on. Everything is fine now that the BLM is out, although I think that might still be them up in the air flying around with a helicopter. I don't know. But sheriff's deputies have been fine here. Law enforcement has been fine. Just these federal agents who have no lawful authority to tell people what to do have taken upon themselves to essentially roll back hundreds and thousands of years. That's what we see happening now with the federal government. They're rolling back the Magna Carta. They're rolling back Runnymede. They're trying to establish the preeminent rights of the king to own all the land, to punish the peasants if you step foot on their land. Tasering the people here, creating First Amendment zones. And again, I would mention that if you're an environmentalist and you think this is about saving the desert tortoise, you're not paying attention. The desert tortoise was picked up by the thousands by the BLM and is being euthanized by the thousands by the BLM because they claim they don't have any money, and yet they mount this multi-million-dollar militarized operation, setting up free speech areas, taking it upon themselves to do that, attacking family members, tasering people. A few weeks ago, a young man was killed in Red Rock, not too far from here, a bicyclist, because he trespassed on some BLM property. See, they believe that they own all the property, not the people of America. So here we are. We have the cowboys have moved forward. We're waiting to see if they're going to release the cattle. I'm going to move down a little bit farther and see if I can see any cattle. Still don't see any cattle. I'm going to move down this way. There's another helicopter up there. Again, a massive traffic jam. Traffic has come to a stop in both directions pretty much. It's slowly rolling through this checkpoint. Doesn't seem to be moving at all on the other side. People gotten out of their cars to see what's going to happen. No sign of the cattle yet. And if you're joining us live, this is David Knight with Infowars.com. No sign of the cattle here.
The real good picture, Dave, is all the BLM agents escaping out of there. That's why the traffic's at a dead stop.
Oh, that's why it's okay. Good, good.
The cowboys are here, and the BLM rangers are running out that way. Getting back on the highway as fast as they can before they let the cowboys in the gate.
Oh, okay.
See
okay.
Stream. There's some coming out over there. You'll see a steady stream of white hoods rolling. There's one right there by that yellow roadway truck. You'll see the white.
Okay, I see.
The steady stream.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I know that the video is not all that great on Ustream, the quality to see that far away, but the traffic is completely stopped in the opposite direction because they had a staging area to the right. That was where all the BLM has been staging themselves for the last, ever since we got here. And now they're bugging out. Maybe they're going to go back to Washington or to China, people that pay them, I don't know. But now that the cowboys are sitting down here waiting for the cattle to be released, I think they're waiting for the BLM to run away before they release the cattle. Truly disgusting display of force. It was like something out of a dystopian movie that just kept barking over the loudspeakers, leave the area, you will be shot, and the crowd just moved forward. This is a Tiananmen Square moment. Instead of a man on foot standing in front of a tank, you had cowboys on horses riding up to a bunch of militarized federal agents who then did a mix between a goose step and a moonwalk to get out of there, wouldn't turn their back on the crowd. Very much afraid of the crowd, actually. Very afraid of the crowd. One guy came forward. He wanted the crowd to get out of the way, get back away from the gates. You see the people up there by the gate now. They were very afraid of the crowd. True cowards and bullies. And they're leaving now. We're waiting for the cows to come. Thank you. So traffic is moving slowly northbound on I-15. Southbound, it is now starting to move. We take that as a sign that the BLM has gone home, left that staging area. They completely shut down traffic in both directions, going southwest on I-15. We're just a little bit south of Mesquite, Nevada, and I guess about an hour and a half north of Las Vegas. Earlier today, Sheriff Gillespie, the sheriff of Clark County, and of course they've consolidated the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department with the sheriff's office because most of the people are in Las Vegas. And earlier today he drove up from Las Vegas, addressed the crowd of protesters, a very large crowd, and said that read the press release from the BLM that they were going to open the area to grazing, to open area for grazing for cattle. They were going to open it to the cattle as they've always had it before. He was very nervous, as Josh Owens said. You could see his hand shaking as he addressed the crowd. It was a good thing that he came down and talked to the people that he works for, and that should be the case. He should recognize that he works for the people, not for the federal government. The lands are for the benefit of the people, not for the federal government. And as we exposed on Infowars.com, Harry Reid and his son have connections. His son is a lobbyist for a Chinese energy company, ENN, which is trying to put in a $5 billion solar project right here. We found documents stating that they needed to get rid of the trespass cattle as well as Clive and Bundy, get him off of the property, get rid of his rights so they could proceed with their solar power project. A $5 billion project for the Chinese energy company ENN. Rory Reid is their lobbyist. Harry Reid is their muscle man, and the guy on the inside is Harry Reid staffer Neil Corns, who is now BLM director. Has Reid's fingerprints all over it. Incredibly unethical, incredibly corrupt, and the way this kind of corruption shows itself is with a heavy-handed presence of militarized federal agents, I guess. They're not law enforcement. I guess we could call them agents. They are agents of the government, but they're not lawful law enforcement. Brutal militarized confrontation, but they stood down when we, the people, stood up to them. And that was the key thing. When the sheriff came to Cliven Bundy and said, we're opening up the range, Cliven didn't ask for his cattle. What he asked for was for the BLM to stand down, for them to turn in their arms, for them to take down their checkpoints where they've been charging people and even killing a young man a few weeks ago at Red Rock. BLM shot him. Evidently, he was trespassing over one of their red lines in the sand. That's what they're doing, marking off all the property. If you think that this is about the desert tortoise, consider the fact that they have spent many millions of dollars on this operation. And they didn't have the money, they said, to feed 1,400 desert tortoises that they had taken into their care, euthanizing those tortoises. And of course, they're being sued by environmental groups because they're not even filing reports, haven't filed reports in California about the status of what they think of the desert tortoise for 7 years. Could it be that they don't want people to know that the desert tortoise is not an endangered species? Could it be that they're hiding that information so they can get Cliven Bundy off of his property, then tell everybody that they're not endangered so that we're good to go on the Chinese solar project? That's a possibility. So again, what I'm looking at right here, what I'm showing you on Ustream, is the mass of cowboys that are down there waiting on the other side of the gate. They're waiting for the cattle to be released. And the BLM has now gone. We've got just, looks like 4 officers from the police department that are standing on the other side. The crowd recognizes their lawful authority, demanded that the BLM leave. The BLM has now gone. They shut down all traffic heading south on I-15 for quite some time, just so they could get the BLM out of their staging area. They've been massing SWAT trucks as well as all kinds of vehicles in a staging area that's just up there. In order to get them all out of that staging area, they shut down I-15 for quite a while. Both lanes of traffic, all southbound traffic. It's now moving again, so evidently they've left the area. Traffic in this area is still going slow because there's so many pedestrians up here waiting and watching to see what's going to go on. We were down there in that area. I came up here because we could not get any cell phone coverage down there in that area. Josh, I don't know if you can make him out. He's in the shade, ready to get shots of the cattle as they're coming out. You got some excellent footage of the BLM standing down, I should say walking backwards. It's a great shot to see that. Again, this is a live feed from the Bundy standoff. We have a lot of mounted cowboys waiting for them to release hundreds of head of cattle. The cattle release has been obtained by a mass of not only mounted cowboys, but people on foot. We were down there earlier. We have some footage that we will upload later, but we cannot broadcast Ustream from down there. There's nowhere that we could get any signal. So I came up here where we could get high and get a signal. So a bit far away from the action, but at least we can get a signal out. Now, under this bridge here, you can kind of see some of the people, perhaps, that are down there waiting for the cattle to be released. It's a little bit of a culvert down there. They wanted people to get back and get out of the way because there's going to be several hundred head of cattle, and they've been pinned up for several days. They don't want to have a running of the bulls type of incident here. So they've got them standing back, and they've got the cowboys on horses in front to kind of calm the cattle down. So we were waiting for the cattle to be released. When we first arrived here, they trained their guns on us and kept repeating, "We have a court order, clear the area, we will shoot." They kept repeating that. They have a court order. If we did not clear the area, they would shoot. But we stood there, and we gave them an order. Hang on. And they're asking for no clapping or cheering so the cows don't get startled. Don't want them to panic and hurt anybody as they get released. So I think the release of the cattle is imminent. It's been promised, and of course, traffic is now flowing because the BLM has left, and we're getting honks from truckers, honks from motorists and support. They know what's going on here. This is a big story. This is a much bigger story than just the BLM or just the Bundys. And we have seen an example of how we need to all stand up for our freedoms and take our freedoms back from a government that has usurped them. As Kurt Nimmo pointed out on Infowars.com, under the Enclave Clause in the Constitution, the federal government was never intended, never had the authority to keep vast amounts of land. And out here in Nevada, this is probably the worst area. Here they've got about 90% under government control. And, of course, increasing all the time. When Mr. Bundy's neighbors were driven out of business, he had 52 other ranches that were using this area. When they were driven out of business, the county purchased the land and turned it over to the federal government. So they've been accumulating land instead of giving it out to the people. And that's the opposite of what should be happening. That's how we are getting into trouble. They're accumulating the land, they're accumulating power, and they're going to sell this land off, as we reported yesterday, with Harry Reid doing a deal with a massive solar project. Just look at how much land is out here. Don't tell me that 900 head of cattle are going to destroy the environment and 600,000 acres right here. There's no way the cattle can destroy that much. They used to have the cattle for 50 different ranches. 50 plus ranches. Used to have cattle for 50 plus ranches here before they shut them down. These guys are not millionaires. They're poor, small businessmen, family businesses. And the government came in and regulated them out of business, cutting their herd sizes down by 90%, cutting off their access to the land, cutting it off in the peak time of year. You can't stay in business. So they just waited for many of them to just go bankrupt. Some of them died from heart attacks, from stress. Some of them took the very low amount of money that they were offering. They didn't even do eminent domain. They just bullied them out of business. And then they came down here and tried to bully Cliven. We're waiting for the cows to come home. It's been a while. But we believe it's imminent. This just shows what can be done if people stand together. This is David Knight at Infowars.com. This is a live stream from the... Now it is a standoff about the cattle, trying to get the cattle back after they have rustled and herded up his cattle over the last several days. A few hundred head of cattle. They came in this morning, the sheriff of Clark County came to the protest area and read a press release from the BLM saying that they were going to reinstate the open grazing rights for his family. At which point Mr. Bundy said what he wanted was for the militarized BLM to stand down, to turn in their weapons, to take down these checkpoints. We had someone killed at a checkpoint a few weeks ago. Had a lot of brutal incidents here in the last few days. And so he wanted these checkpoints taken down. He wanted the weapons turned in. He wanted them to stop militarizing this situation with people who are not even lawful law enforcement. And he asked the sheriff to do that for him. He gave him 1 hour to do it. When we heard nothing back from him, Mr. Bundy got out and told everybody, let's go get the cattle back. So the crowd moved up here as the cowboys on horseback cut through and rode. It took us a while even on cars to get here. And pedestrians got here first. They were telling us to leave the area. They would shoot. They had a court order, but we had our own orders. We were not going to be the cattle. So we stood, we waited until the horses got here, then we moved a little bit closer. Just before that concrete overpass that you're looking at now, that was about how close everybody was to the BLM, and they were getting very nervous about it. They sent one guy up to talk. He wanted people to move back from the fence because we slowly approached the fence. And they essentially blinked and said, fine, we'll give you your cattle back. We'll get out of here. And they backed out holding their guns, looking pretty foolish, actually. And Josh Owens has some great footage of that. It's going to go up on Infowars.com. And we're covering this live to see the cattle released, and they should be coming out shortly. Again, this is David Knight from Infowars.com. Keep the stream going so you can see when it happens. Should be quite a sight. Going to have a couple hundred head of cattle coming through here. We have a lot of people that have gotten up in high areas, people that are under the bridge, that are getting up on the embankments, the concrete embankments. It is a little bit of a culvert down there, but they don't want these cattle who've been cooped up for quite some time, they don't want them to endanger any of the people on foot. So people are getting up high. And they got quite a few cowboys there, but there are going to be a couple hundred head of cattle, hopefully. That's what we've been told. And it looks like we got some cow dogs down there, too. They'll be pretty helpful. Traffic is now moving south on I-15. They had completely blocked all traffic while the BLM cleared out of the area. They had a staging area that was just down that way. They've had ever since we got here on Wednesday. They've had a staging area down there. I guess they had it before we got here. I don't know how long it's been there. One other interesting note is that we filed a report about 2 days ago that they had taken down the cattle guard crossings. You know, when you go into the open range areas where the ranchers had been allowed for hundreds of years to graze their cattle, 140 years, the Bundy family has been here. When you went into that area, they had a cattle guard that's built into the road. If you don't know what a cattle guard is, it's some steel bars that are spaced maybe about 4 to 6 inches apart. The cattle will not walk over it. They don't have any sure footing to get over that cattle guard. They put that at the entrance, and they put a sign up warning you it's a cattle guard that you're going to be going over. And then further down, they had a sign that said open range. I think it had a cow on it. Anyway, when we came down, they didn't take down the open range sign because that was right across from the protester area, but they did take down the 2 cattle guard signs, and they were back up again this morning. Interesting development. We're waiting for the cattle to be released. Waiting for the Bundy cattle to be released here at the Bundy Range standoff. I'm going to pan around and show you the traffic here, as well as just look at the vastness of this land. I've been here since Wednesday. I have yet to see a single cow. There's 900 cattle that were spread out over 600,000 acres. Don't tell me that they're a threat to the habitat. It's nonsense. And as Cliven Bundy's brother, who was speaking earlier this morning, pointed out, they were losing the battle. The environmentalists were losing the battle. Hey, there we go, Infowars. All right.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, David, good to see you.
Hey, good to see you. There you go. Thanks for supporting. Thank you. Yeah, there you go.
Take a picture of it.
We'll live stream you while you take a picture of us. There we go.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. as we pointed out earlier, Clive and Bundy's brother was saying that when they started to change the rules on the land because of the desert tortoise back in '93, all the ranchers hired a lawyer, hired some scientists. They were getting their day in court, as they should. Looked like things were going to go their direction. The environmentalists, the federal government was losing its case, and so the BLM just said, we have jurisdiction here, you do not, and simply walked out of the court. That's the kind of arrogance they've seen for the last 20 years, 20 plus years. Things have come to a head at this point, however, we believe, because we think that Harry Reid and his son and his minion, who is now the head of the BLM, Neil Corns, who used to be a chief staffer with Harry Reid, and Harry Reid's son, Roy Reid, is a lobbyist for a Chinese energy company, ENN, which has secured a contract to put a $5 billion solar production plant here in this area. 2 years ago, New American and Reuters both reported on this, on the ethical questions of this, and of the fact that it was not going to go through without the special help of Harry Reid. They would not give approval to it unless they had certain things fall in place. Harry Reid got those things to fall in place, putting pressure on it. Clearly a conflict of interest, but they went ahead. But the thing that changed this week was that Infowars discovered documents saying they could not move forward with their massive giveaway to the Chinese unless they cleared off the Bundy family, cleared off what they call trespass cattle. Because he's the last man standing, the last man still hanging on to his legal property rights. His legal property rights, his grazing rights, his water rights. And of course, they've come out and destroyed water holes that had been, and structures that had been set up by the Bundy family, improving the range, and also used by feral livestock. Feral livestock was coming to that area. It was a water hole that had been there for over 100 years. It wasn't just his cattle that was using it. It was the wildlife, the feral life that was out there on the range that was also using those water structures, and the BLM came out and destroyed it in an effort to destroy his property rights. A very blatant effort. At this point, it looks like Ryan Bundy is standing up and addressing the crowd. I recognize his profile. He's pretty far away. Hopefully, there's been some movement down there. I think they're getting ready to release the cattle. This is David Knight at Infowars.com. We're going to continue to stream this live. It's going to be quite a sight when it happens. There's going to be several hundred head of cattle. They have asked that people not applaud. They don't want to spook the cattle, make it any more dangerous than it's going to be, because they've been cooped up for quite some time. Again, I had to get up here on the overpass. We could not get any cell phone coverage or data coverage down there where the action was happening, but we did record what was going on in this kind of Tiananmen Square of the West down here. People stood up for their rights, and they stood down the unlawful thugs from the BLM that have militarized this area, that have been victimizing the people of this area, been trying to steal their property, just as the federal government has stolen so many of our abstract rights. They steal our property rights, they steal our cattle, our tangible property as well. Okay, there's a cheer going up. I think they're getting ready to release the cattle.
They're leaving.
Oh, no, they're cheering the fact that the BLM is leaving. There's so many BLM, it's taking a while for them to clear out of the area. That's what the holdup is. They're trying to get these guys out of the area. So there was a cheer that went up from the crowd just now as they saw the BLM pulling out in their sparkling new white vehicles that they all flew down here and bought. Their new trucks, their new cattle carriers, so they could steal a poor farmer's livelihood, his cattle. Spend millions and millions of dollars to try to run him out, to bully him out, while they're euthanizing the tortoises because they say they don't have enough money to feed them. This is the brutality and the insanity of the federal government. It's come to this. But today we had a victory. We had the people stand up, and it looks like the BLM has, it appears at this moment at least, to be standing down. They have agreed to release the cattle. The cowboys are down there waiting for the cattle to be released. And we're going to bring that to you here live. We've had a government helicopter flying continuously overhead through this entire thing. This is a no-fly zone. That is a local, that's a Metro police helicopter. That's not BLM. Again, I say Metro. This is, Clark County is huge. Las Vegas is about an hour and a half away. But this is all Clark County, and they have combined the sheriff's office with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. It was at the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department yesterday that a group of people went down to protest the sheriff, to tell him that he needed to do something to protect the property and the lives of the people here. All right, so the people are starting to move. I believe they're getting ready to release the cattle. Everybody is moving out of the way, getting to higher ground. Again, we've got about 200 or 300 cattle, supposedly. I don't know how many cattle they're going to release. That's supposedly about 300 cattle that they've stolen. The BLM was saying that they were not, that not all the cattle that they had rounded up, that had rustled, were cattle from Clive and Bundy. Some of them belonged to ranchers as far away as Arizona. And they were checking the brands. So I don't know. And there was also some concern that some of the cattle had died. Yeah. Okay, sure. We're trying to hear the audio from them. Listen. Did you catch anything?
All right, spook the cattle.
I'm not going to spook the cattle. Was that what he said? Was that the announcement to try to get back? Did you guys catch any of the audio? Yeah, I know. I couldn't hear it either. There was some announcement. We couldn't really hear what it is, but I think the release of the cattle is imminent.
You should watch out and get the picture of all those BLM guys bailing out. There's a traffic jam in the entrance there.
I don't know if you can see it, but there's a long, long line. This was literally an army of BLM agents. They're now leaving in their white, sparkling new vehicles. This is an army of BLM agents who had come here. They're now filing out slowly. I think they've got to get out before they release the cattle.
We got to go this side of the bridge. They're demanding it.
Get past the bridge.
On the bridge.
I'm sorry. We broke this story. I'm not leaving.
Well,
Look, I'm streaming this. I'm not going to bother any cattle, okay? I'm streaming live. Leave me alone.
now you got to be involved.
Hey, sir. The whole reason why they're wanting everybody over is so that the cattle don't see you and get spooked. If you're on that side, they're not going to see you until they're under. That's why they're asking. It's actually coming from the ranchers.
All right.
So
I'll do
you
it.
guys can move over for me, please.
Okay,
Thank
sure.
you.
We'll do.
Hey, sir.
All right, we're going to move to the other side because the ranchers are asking us to not spook the cattle. They're afraid the cattle are going to get spooked if they see us. So. This is the crowd of people. We're going to see the cattle as they Okay, good day for freedom. All right, so this is the direction the cattle are going to be headed. They have 200 or 300 head of cattle that they're going to be releasing. Everybody's very concerned these cattle are going to be pretty crazy after being cooped up this amount of time. They're not really sure the condition they've been kept in. We've been told that a lot of them, a lot of young calves were obviously not getting fed because they saw some cows with some very tight bellies, meaning that the calves were not able to get milk. So we don't know how many of the cattle died. We don't know how many they're going to be releasing. Some of the cattle that they have picked up are cattle from even as far away as Arizona, but they're going to be releasing them soon. And they're very concerned that the cattle are going to be spooked if they see people up on the bridge. So we've moved just to help them with that. But we'll still be able to see the cattle as they come through. Sorry? Yes. Alex Jones Live. Yeah, a lot of people were concerned. It was very touch and go there for a while. They kept barking at people saying they were going to shoot.
But I just don't have any Wi-Fi or cell service.
That's good. Yeah, everybody is safe. They were threatening people repeatedly, threatening that they would shoot if we did not leave the area. But people stood up for their freedom, stood up for Clive and Bundy's rights, and stood up for our rights. And the BLM backed down. So everybody is fine, and we're waiting for the cattle to be released. Property Law Center.
They just put the Bundys on as domestic violence terrorists.
Oh, let me get this. Okay, so what did you just hear? Okay. Southern Poverty Law Center just listed the Bundys as domestic terrorists.
Yes, they did.
Oh, okay. Not anybody from the BLM though, right?
I doubt that.
Yeah, not Harry Reid or Rory Reid.
No, not Obama.
Not Neil Corns.
No.
His minion.
No.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So you just heard that the SPLC has just listed the Bundys as homegrown terrorists. Clive and Bundy is listed. There we go. There we go. We can always count on the SPLC to do that sort of thing. They have you listed as a terrorist, I guarantee it.
If that's what it means, if that's the terrorist means,
So this is the vast land here that the environmentalists say cannot support 900 head of cattle. But it can support a $5 billion solar project if Harry Reid is attached to it. And in order for Harry Reid to get his project, the BLM said that they had to get rid of Clive and Bundy and his property rights that his family have held for 140 years. And if they can take their property rights, if they can take their business using federal regulations to bully, blackmail, and bludgeon them out of this area, they can do that to any kind of small family business.
County Sheriff?
You want the sign? Let me get your sign there. Loyal9.org, okay. Obama, yeah.
Here's the organization right there. We started 8 months ago. 4 guys on 33 states now.
Good. Good. So what do you do while we're waiting?
You okay with that line? We send out emails anytime there's legislation that violates the Bill of Rights. we should watch our members saying whether, for example, right now the bill making it so reporters have to turn over their sources. But in the meantime, you have both Graham and Schumer, both sides of the aisle, Feinstein saying
the one that's going to protect us. Yeah, that's the bill that's set up to protect journalism. Yeah.
And so we've gone through this line, see out the email, we have the emails ready to go. So the Bill of Rights Amendment, more or less. Remember like 3 years ago, SOPA, and everyone just went nuts, and the legislature backed down?
Yeah,
that was the inspiration for it. We thought, what if everybody was gathered and ready to go like that?
Get on the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That's SOPA, PIPTA, ACTA, through the back door, as well as a lot of other things.
Yeah,
Trans-Pacific.
Oh,
yeah, Trans-Pacific Partnership. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Good work.
Thank you.
Great. Loyal9.org. All right, good. And we're waiting for the cattle. We're waiting till the cattle come home, and we can see down there through that bridge, there's a long line. Cows did? I'm sorry, wait a second, what? Oh, the Cowboys did go on the other side of the fence. We see a long line of white cars. There's a BLM, and there's a long line. They can't get out, but they're going home, which is a good sign.
You don't really think people are actually naive enough to believe this is over.
That's right. No. They stood down in March, beginning of March. They said they stood down. He went down and met with the sheriff, and they stood down at that point, and then it started back up again in April. Yeah.
So this might start again in another month.
Well, they did enact a 30-day no-fly zone over this area, and it'll be interesting to see if they've taken that down. So.
I don't know. I haven't heard about it.
Yep. You can see the documents online. There's a story on Infowars.com.
Yep, I saw that. I was reading it this morning.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're kind of like ambush predators. They're very patient.
Yeah?
Hey, Bill, I'm over here. I'm right behind you.
It's a long time.
We think you got a flag out here.
Yeah, if you can group up.
Come on. You can do it.
Sorry. No problem.
Sorry?
Need to come through? Go ahead.
I'm only 33.
Like 6 weeks, thank you very much.
All right, so I wonder why the cattle aren't afraid of the cops standing and walking over there, if we can't stand there.
When the cattle come, the traffic doesn't scatter. This year they decided that the cattle don't get those guys are going to stop that side.
Bye! Bye! There they go. Bye! There go the BLM. Bye! We're waving goodbye. Goodbye! Hey, see you later!
Yeah, boy,
Yeah, tell him. Goodbye!
you tell him, boy. Two for you on the bike side.
All right, let's keep flipping them. He saluted us. Yeah. We were giving him a salute, too. A lot of one-fingered salutes. Yeah.
Oh, wait, that's not the piece. Just a piece of my money.
There they go. Contract cowboys, BLM military. Yeah. Now they're completely shutting down the north side of, actually both sides of the interstate. You can see it's come to a halt over there. This is how many of these militarized feds have come down here. It's amazing, the convoy of them leaving.
We're flipping off all the BLM.
A lot of brand new trucks. But they don't have the money to feed their beloved tortoises.
If my kid was out here, I'd like, fuck you guys.
Look at that. Look at that caravan.
Keep them coming.
Keep them coming. I got middle fingers all day. The BLM is leaving the area, at least for now.
It's weird you can actually watch it unfold. I think I'm out here today, and someday it'll work, and someday it'll be right. They're going out of caravan, man.
That's awesome.
They've completely blocked I-15 northbound and southbound to get the BLM out. It's an amazing convoy. Just to give you an idea of the scope and the scale of the number of vehicles here. We're going to keep showing them as they leave.
All of us, asses in the air.
Just the top button. Wow.
Don't have that many cars.
Fuck you! Yeah! 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 That's right! Yeah!
This is BLM and contract cowboys leaving the area. These are the militarized forces that came down here that have been threatening and bullying people, that have been stealing this small businessman's property.
Oh, sorry, sir. Record of all the vehicles.
Yeah! Oh, you're on fuck you camera! Yeah! Oh, they got their feelings hurt.
Wow, many people are up there, man.
Again, for those of you just joining us, this is David Knight with Infowars. This massive caravan is the BLM and their contract people who have been harassing and brutalizing the people of this area for the last several weeks. They're now leaving, and it is taking a very long time. Traffic has stopped in both directions on I-15, both north and south direction.
Border Patrol and Park Service.
Border Patrol and Park Service as well.
Right here, fucker. Yeah, to you. You got a piece of this? There you go.
And we have the crowd here saluting them as they leave.
Forest Service right there.
Now where's the ranchers? I want to see cowboys. Salute us, fascist.
Again, this is such a long caravan. They've had to stop traffic both north and south, both lanes of I-15. And there's a helicopter ahead. You count them so far, 82 vehicles so far. And they can't afford to feed the desert tortoises under their care while they do this type of thing.
Clap or cheer or anything, you're not spooking cattle. It's going to make their jobs twice as hard. So, okay? So, go to
Don't scare the cattle. Cattle, make the cowboys sound more totally quiet.
Can I get here? All right. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. No problem. Okay, we believe that it's imminent that they're going to release the cattle now at this point.
Spread the word to those below you. No cheering, no clapping. Keep it quiet.
Again, we just watched a caravan of BLM vehicles leaving the area. They shut down traffic north and southbound on I-15 here in Nevada. A caravan of over 80 vehicles went by. But of course, they cannot afford to feed the desert tortoise. They are killing over 1,000 of them in just one area. And that was the justification where they started all this 20 plus years ago.
The tortoise, they were saying that the tortoise needs to go. That's what they told me.
Hello. Let him know there are 6 people downstream of this. There are people in the brush out there. 6 people out there.
Trying to get everybody off to the side. They're going to be releasing about a couple of hundred head of cattle. We don't know exactly. The BLM said they rounded up 300. Then they said that not all of them were Bundy cattle. We don't know how many cattle died, but they're going to be releasing a couple of hundred head at least. And these are cattle that have been cooped up for several days, and everybody's concerned. They don't want any people on foot getting trampled. So they have quite a few cowboys on the other side to try to get control of them, but they're trying to get all pedestrians to the high side. And we are standing away from the side where they're going to be releasing them. We'll be seeing the cattle as they're running away from us. The cattlemen have requested that all the crowd get on the side where the cows cannot see them, so that we don't we do as little as possible to spook these cattle. They're going to be pretty spooked as it is. Again, this is David Knight at Infowars.com, streaming live. Traffic is now moving again north and south on I-15. Again, we just saw a caravan of over 80 BLM vehicles. Both sides of I-15 were shut down while they got this caravan of 80 plus vehicles out of here. That's right. Yeah, it's been over 2 hours.
Sir! Hey! Oh. Hey, yeah, you don't want to throw those away. Heat like this, you don't waste those.
There's people honking in support. Again, we're at the area where they have held the Bundy cattle, and they're supposed to be releasing them hopefully soon. We've been waiting 2 hours. They said it was going to be a half hour, but they have now. They were waiting for the BLM people to get out, and we just waited for a caravan of over 80 BLM vehicles leaving the area. An amazing display of force, an amazing waste of money, the amazing hypocrisy that they could spend millions of dollars on this operation to threaten and bully this rancher, and they don't have the money to feed the desert tortoises under their care, so they're euthanizing them. So we've been waiting all this time for the BLM to pack up and leave, and now that they're gone, it looks like this is imminent. Should be happening very shortly.
Politicians started getting really nervous. They started getting really nervous. And that's when the phones started ringing back and forth. That's why Gillespie got in on this. I'll bet it wasn't just the sheriff. It's election time, man.
Yeah, a lot of things built up in the last week or so. We have a delegation from Arizona on its way out here. They passed a resolution of support in Arizona for Clive and Bundy. And, of course, Infowars.com broke the connection between Harry Reid, his son Roy Reid, who is the lobbyist for a Chinese energy company, ENN, a $5 billion solar project to be created right here. And we found the documents where they said they had to get rid of Clive and Bundy and his, quote, trespass cattle before they could start the project. Massive ethical questions here. Corruption. Of course, Harry Reid is too big to jail, I guess, and this kind of thing, certainly for this administration. Again, if you're just joining us earlier this morning, the Sheriff Gillespie from Las Vegas, actually Clark County combined its police force with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. He came up here to the protest area, read a press release from the BLM saying that they were going to restore the open range. But Clive and Bundy demanded that they stand down, that they remove the arms, that they remove the BLM agents, and gave them 1 hour to do it. When they didn't do it, the crowd got together and came down here to this area where there's both the staging area for the BLM and the holding area for the cattle. And as we approached on foot, we got here before the cowboys back in. As we approached on foot, there were armed, militarized federal agents, black jackets, AR-15s, pointed at the crowd, hiding behind their vehicles with helmets, with bulletproof vests, telling us that they had a court order, we had to leave the area or they would shoot, and they kept repeating that message. We did not leave the area, we stayed, and as the cowboys on horseback got here, we closed the distance probably by about two-thirds, held for a while. More people accumulated. We gradually moved forward. They got very afraid, had to stand back from the gate, came out to try to parley with everyone, and eventually stood down when the sheriff's deputies arrived. Those people who were front position, those armed troops, gradually walked backwards. Josh has great footage of that. Kind of a mix between a goose step and a moonwalk. And it took them a long time, probably about an hour and a half, but they did get 80 some odd vehicles together from the staging area, shut down both sides of I-15, north and south, and we counted over 80 vehicles leaving this area. Now, yesterday they did enact a 30-day no-fly zone over the area, so the concern is that even though they say they have opened the range now, even though they say they are going to give the cattle back, and we're still waiting, it's been almost 2 hours now. They said it's going to be about a half hour, but they wanted to get the BLM out of there before they release the cows. So even if they do get the cattle back and the grazing rights back, we're still concerned that they will move against them once everybody goes home. But we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. This has been a very powerful situation. Shows the power of the people if they will take an interest in losing their freedoms and stand up to make sure that doesn't happen. This is David Knight with Infowars.com. We're here live waiting for the cattle to be released. It looks like that's very imminent because they're trying to clear everybody out of the culvert area. They have about 200 or 300 cattle that are going to be released that have been held for quite some time, and they're very antsy. They don't want to spook them in any way, so they moved everybody to the back side of the bridge. So we're looking at the vast hundreds of thousands of acres that these cattle are going to be turned out on. And understand these cattle were not together as a group. They're pretty much dispersed over an area of 600,000 plus acres. You can see how vast this is. And it is hot out here. It's very hot in the sun. Great place for solar power. A great place to sell that to the Chinese and turn a quick buck if you're Harry Reid. Again, we're live here at Infowars.com. We're waiting for the cattle to be released. Should be soon.
Did they ever tell you how much cattle they lost?
The BLM was reporting that they had 300 or so cattle, but they were also saying some of it belonged to other people, had different brands on it, so I don't know. That's the area the cattle are going to be coming from. They're not allowing us to get on the other side because they don't want us to spook the cattle. They're going to be pretty spooky as it is. They've been cooped up, been chased down, many of them chased down with helicopters, so they're concerned the cattle are going to be pretty spooky. They don't want anybody to get hurt.
Where the hell are they hurting at?
To a woman down there, and she was telling me she's from Arizona, but she was telling me that they lost 130 cattle to heat exhaustion.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And the BLM shot and killed 2 bulls. So they lost 138 cattle from heat exhaustion from getting rounded and grilled by the helicopter. And 2 were shot and killed. 2 bulls were shot and killed by the BLM.
Wow.
So they lost
about
140.
And and the cattle are about $1,000 to $1,500 a head, so we got over $130,000 worth of damage, property damage done by them. So, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Everybody wants the free-range cattle. But it's all about making sure that just the factory cattle are the only ones in business, right?
So you don't want what? Today, it's not about happy California cows. Today, Bundy Ranch cows are going to be happy. Not California today. Sorry, Cali. Hashtag Bundy Ranch. Same here, girl. Same here.
It took me a year, but I got my shooting range and I got to come out every time.
Good for you. Ooh.
Really? Yeah.
I don't know. There's people lined up there, but they're all...
He doesn't even give her.
Wow. Let me get you to repeat that, just in case people didn't hear it. We're waiting for the cows to be turned out. We got people sitting around here. So you're from San Diego.
Yeah, I'm from San Diego.
And you're just telling us that the sheriff there was at Ruby Ridge, and he won't do what for the Navy SEALs?
I'm saying he won't give anybody CCWs. He doesn't even give them to the active duty SEALs from what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Well, of course, I'm from Texas, and in Fort Hood, we just had a mass shooting there for the second time because they don't trust the soldiers with guns there, right?
Well, yeah, but sometimes you just got to disobey that order.
That's right. That's That's right. Well, I see you're packing today, so that's good. That's good. That's right. Good. Okay.
Y'all stop and talk to the kids. Josh and Lolly.
Well, you know what? By the time we start eating or drinking something, they'll release the cattle. I'm hoping it's going to be before I die of heat exhaustion. I just heard that they lost 130 cattle. Heat exhaustion because they're rounding them up. Helicopters here and everything. And I was just told that by somebody else. I don't know if that's true. I was on a teleconference, press conference in BLM yesterday, and they said that a lot of cattle were being confiscated. I don't know what the count is. I know there was a couple hundred head, probably. But they're still going to be coming out of here. So if the people don't get out of the way, it could be like the running of the bulls, you know? Yeah, Southern Poverty Law Center called Cliven, Bundy, and the rest of us domestic terrorists. We know who the real terrorists are. Yeah, civil rights workers. All he's done is set up a mass mail marketing funding scheme.
You do know now the American Spring has a really good shot.
Yeah? Yeah?
Yeah.
That's good, I hope so.
And what we're trying to do is get redress agreements.
Just tell us about it while we're waiting.
Redress agreements is we're trying to kick all the money out, just remove all campaign contributions. So that way they work for us. That way, just have it doled out by the state for the people running for election, and then.
But what do you do about? See, the problem is I've run as a third-party candidate for the Libertarian Party.
No, free equal money.
Yeah, but.
More deeds than ours next to people's name on a voting ballot.
I know, but they have so many different ways they rig that. I mean, we were never allowed in the debates because they said they were being run by a private third party. They got all kinds of games that they play, you know.
I ran twice.
Yeah.
We do it as an amendment. That way we won't forget in 20 years. That way when they take money and they will try, some of them will try, our kids and our grandkids will be taught that this is like a horrible sin. Like freedom of speech, going against freedom of speech. You knock off our freedom of speech, and we're coming out in numbers. You put it as an amendment and say that if they take money, then we're going to come out in numbers. And we're going to have better officials.
The taxpayer-funded campaign contribution should not be illegal in any instance whatsoever.
And it should be equal taxpayer-funded. That's it. And we don't have a choice anymore.
Well, you also have a lot of reforms to do about counting the votes as well. Because the way they do the elections.
The bribery, I don't care what else you say.
Well, they bribe them on the backside too. Look at Harry Reid and this $5 billion project.
Every single person, we can require every single person to carry a gun. Will that fix this country? No.
Right.
What's going to fix this country is removing the money so they represent us.
Yeah.
We can do a lot of stuff, but we can't do it until we remove the money. That's the biggest issue, and I don't care if you're left or right.
Well, I think it's the power, because if they've got the power, if we don't... Yeah, but he's in office now, Harry Reid, and so he can dole out, he can use a federal agency to create regulations to drive people off the land and then hand the land over to the Chinese that his son represents.
We put a really nice cow platter down there, and we put in rocks, reed.
That's good. That's good.
I got a picture of it.
See, there's no food over there. That kid, you know, was like trying to catch
David Knight here with Infowars.com. We are waiting for the cattle to be released. And we've been waiting for the cows to come home, and we haven't seen them yet. Been here for probably about 2 hours since the BLM stood down. And it's an amazing story how they stood down. We came in through this area. You can see that road up there. People walk down this road here, down into this culvert. And as we went under this overpass, on the other side were a bunch of armed BLM agents, militarized, had combat uniforms on, body armor, helmets, AR-15s pointed at us, and a loudspeaker saying, "Leave the area. They have a court order controlling this. They will shoot." And they kept repeating that order. But the people did not leave. We stood our ground and gradually moved a little bit closer. When the mounted cowboys got here, we closed the distance to probably about 3/4 of the distance. Waited for a while. They kept barking orders at us, and then we gradually walked up to the metal gate that they had. At that point, soldiers got very concerned and came out and parleyed with the Bundy family. The Bundy family said they were not going to negotiate with them privately. They just wanted them to bring the cattle out. They said it's going to take some time. They wanted people to stand back because it's going to be dangerous now. We've been here for 2 hours. I believe they're going to release the cattle. They have sent the BLM home or to another staging area now. At the moment, 80 plus vehicles left this area. This is the same bureaucracy that says it doesn't have the money to feed the desert tortoise, and it was protecting the desert tortoise. That was the rationalization they presented, the pretense, phony pretense that they put out there to start this whole range war. And they have put out 52 of the 53 ranchers that were in this area, this massive 600,000 acres. 600,000 acres. Clive and Bundy had 900 down to 10-15%. And I think he had 1,500 at the time. They were going to cut down to 150. They cut everybody's allotment down by about 90%. Told them they were not going to be able to graze their cattle in the spring, the prime time. And it put most of the ranchers were driven out of business by that. Others sold their ranches to the state government for pennies on the dollar, and the state turned it over to the federal government at that point. A very shameful episode, and as we heard from Clive and Bundy's brother, the ranchers got together, took the government to court, paid for a lawyer, paid for environmental scientists, had demonstrated that the cattle, which had been here for hundreds of years, throughout the time that the desert tortoise was far more abundant than it is today, so were the cattle. And there were thousands of head of sheep at the time. They were not the cause of the demise of the desert tortoise, and they showed that they were not a threat to the desert tortoise. The BLM was losing the case. It was clear they were going to lose the case. At that point, they just stood up and said, "We have the jurisdiction. Your court, your Nevada court, has no jurisdiction in this," and walked out because they were going to win the court case. At that point, Clive and Bundy decided that he was not going to pay that lawless agency the grazing fees. And it's very easy for the mainstream press to say that he should have his cattle taken because he didn't pay the grazing fees. But that was what led up to it. They were no longer a bureau that was trying to manage the land. It was simply a collection agency for a bunch of corrupt politicians who were going to sell the surface rights, the mineral rights to big corporations, foreign government, foreign corporations. Harry Reid and his son Roy Reid have worked out a deal with the Chinese energy company to put a $5 billion solar project here. One of the former chief staffers of Harry Reid is now the director of the BLM. Massive massive conflicts of interest, massive corruption, the sellout of the American people to the Chinese government, because it's Chinese government that owns these Chinese corporations that are that size. That was exposed in New American and Reuters a couple of years ago, the ethical questions. Infowars broke the story that was what this was about. We uncovered documents from the BLM that said that in order for them to proceed with their project, they had to remove Cliven Bundy and his, quote, trespassing cattle from the land. So that is perhaps why this is, after 20 years, why they came down here, militarized, bullying people, because they're ready to proceed now with that project.
My husband didn't kill me. I was telling him we did an arm stand down.
This is Clark County.
Massive crowd of people here in Bunkerville, Nevada. It's not Bunker Hill, it's Bunkerville, but it might as well be. We avoided a Boston massacre earlier today. People have now gotten back a measure of freedom, if only temporarily. We have gotten rid of the BLM. It was just a few weeks ago that a bicyclist was fatally shot by the BLM because he went past one of their checkpoints. They not only are hanging on to land in violation of the enclave clause of the Constitution, where they should be moving it out, but they're not only in violation of that, but they're also accumulating more land. Well, I hear that the cattle are now being released. Should be coming now. We see some people have spotted them in the distance. Still see a SWAT team over there. Still see a SWAT team truck in the distance. I'm looking for the cattle. Oh, I think they're starting to come. I see a few of them underneath the bridge there, if you look.
Here they come.
Here come the cattle. I don't know if you can see it that far away. We're going to get a video of them when they get closer. Again, we're on the other side of the road at the request of the cowboys. They do not want anybody making unnecessary noise. They don't want the cattle to see people up on the bridge. These cattle are very antsy because they've been cooped up for a long time. Many of them were chased down by helicopters. I've heard reports that 130 of them were run to death by helicopters out here in this heat, and it is hot. You can see a cloud of cattle there. I've heard there was 130 cattle died, and 2 were shot by the BLM.
He lost 130 head.
Are all those his? Because BLM was saying that some of the cattle that they got were out of Arizona even. So I don't know.
It's only a half a mile.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, but they've, thanks, yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't know that, so that's good. Yeah. So it's only about a half mile that way is Arizona. Yeah. That explains it. I think those things range pretty far, but I guess Clark County is probably bigger than Rhode Island. It's huge. Yeah, probably literally. I'm not exaggerating,
It's the biggest county of the nation. I think it's the second largest.
Looks like the cattle are coming.
They are.
Okay, here comes some cattle.
That is unbelievable. I've lived my whole life here fighting these BLM guys. That's the first time anybody's ever beat them.
That's great.
It's not over. They're going to keep
Yeah.
it over.
But that right there has never happened to these BLM guys. Ever. Hey, don't go over there, ma'am. Ma'am. Do not go over there. Them cows will not come down here.
Were you here earlier when you really?
This guy got it. We only lost
Thank you. I don't know if you can see the cattle. They're off in the distance. Here's some of them running. They're running towards us. Everybody's back away from the bridge, so we won't spook them.
Here they come. They get to go home.
that? It wasn't good.
David Knight.
Yes.
You guys are kicking butt, man.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, here come the first of the cattle. First of the cattle coming through here.
Bundy, I'll talk to you later.
These are the Bundy cattle. Just been released by the BLM. Again, we're live on Infowars.com. Alex Jones live. Got some cow dogs there in the front. Round up the cattle. We got had quite a few mounted cowboys down here to help with the roundup, and they're trying to get all the pedestrians here on the side because these cattle have been cooped up for quite a while. Many of them were herded up by helicopter. I've heard 130 of them were run to death by helicopter. A couple of bulls were shot and killed by the BLM. It took us a very long time to get the BLM out of here. After a very dramatic stand down earlier today, the crowd confronted the BLM, and the BLM was broadcasting a message that they had a court order. We had to leave the area or they would shoot. And they did have AR-15s as well as armor and helmets and hiding behind their cars, but eventually, as the crowd moved forward, they left. They backed down. There's a helicopter overhead, and here are the cattle as they go. A couple hundred cattle. So we see there's some calves. The Bundys had reported that they saw a lot of cows with very tight bellies, which would mean that they were separated from their calves, or the calves had died. A lot of these calves were these newborn calves being run to death by the BLM in order to round them up. As I said, there was 130 head reportedly killed, 2 bulls shot. But the cowboys who came out here and the people who were on foot stood down the BLM. Stood here for, I don't know if it was, how long it was. It seemed like a pretty long time. But we stood our ground and then eventually closed the distance. The BLM got very concerned as the people got close. And they said they would release the cattle. Mr. Bundy this morning, as the sheriff drove up from Las Vegas, is about an hour and a half drive. If you remember yesterday, there was a crowd of people who protested the sheriff's office, trying to get him to do his duty to protect the property and the people that are down here from the brutal tactics of the BLM. And I went in and talked to him. They did not even have a written press statement, would not say anything about the ranch situation, basically threw us out. The next morning, the sheriff came up here with a press release from BLM saying they were going to open the range back up. Mr. Bundy did not ask about his calves at that time. He said his demands were that they turn in their arms, that they get rid of these checkpoints where they've set up these crossing lines. When people cross them, they've been brutally treated in the last couple of days. We had one individual who was a bicyclist up in Red Rock that was fatally shot at one of the after crossing into one of the BLM sacred areas. And so his demand was that they take these areas down, stop charging people in there, stop harassing people, and especially to turn in their weapons. After 1 hour, those demands were not met. So a crowd of us came down here in front of the BLM, and here we are now. I guess it's maybe about 2.5 hours after they said they would deliver the cattle. They had to clear out the BLM first, and there were this caravan of over 80 BLM vehicles that left. They closed down I-15 north and south for quite a while as that caravan left. Millions of dollars spent to attack this rancher. No money to feed their beloved desert tortoises. They're euthanizing them by the thousands at their refuges. So that's the hypocrisy of the BLM laid bare. It's a calf calling for his mom. Now, of course, the corruption has also been laid bare. Story on Infowars.com connected the links to Dirty Harry's Chinese solar giveaway and the Bundy Ranch, specifically saying that they would not be able to proceed with their $5 billion giveaway to the Chinese government if they could not clear Bundy and his, quote, trespass cattle off the land. See, they have legal rights here. They had to run them off, intimidate them off, bully them off, all done under the color of authority, but they did not have legitimate authority. He would not bow to their illegitimate authority. Harry Reid's son is the lobbyist for this $5 billion solar project being put together by a Chinese energy company, ENN, basically giving them the service rights to this vast area that you see out here. Shutting down the last small rancher in the area, whose family had been here for over 140 years, who had made improvements to the land, who had been a good steward of the land, who had legal rights to the land. It was only after the government came in and said that in order to save the desert tortoise, they were going to reduce his herd down by 90% and keep them off at the most important time of the year for them to be grazing out here. At that point, and after the BLM just walked out of the judicial trial where the ranchers were trying to prove that their cattle was not a danger to the desert tortoise, the BLM just said, we have jurisdiction here, walked out of the trial as they were losing it. At that point, he stopped paying his grazing fees. He tried to pay them to the county, they would not accept it. This is not a case of somebody dodging their fees, dodging their taxes. It's a case of who owns the land, who has legitimate authority over the land, and who is mismanaging it, who is trying to deliberately put these people out of business. You can see the cattle out in the distance. You can see the dust being kicked up. Coming out a few at a time. There's a small calf right there. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Could you read the word? Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Just had a fellow give me some much needed water. There's the BLM with their helicopter, I guess, or the local police force. I don't know who that is. Well, the cattle have been released, but this is not about the cattle. This is not about the grazing fees. This is about an out-of-control government that can write laws as they please. A government where a very powerful senator like Harry Reid can put one of his chief of staff in charge of the Bureau of Land Management, have his son be a lobbyist for a Chinese corporation, and can be the broker for a $5 billion solar production factory here. And then use the BLM to bully and to steal and to try to drive Clive Bundy out of business. The people are standing here with him. It did not work. The people stood them down this time. It was a case of either getting the cattle or being the cattle, quite frankly. This is a symbolic thing. It's important for the Bundy family, of course. These cows are $1,000 to $1,500 a piece. 130 of them have reportedly been run to death by a helicopter. That's the way they were herding them up in this heat. That's easily done. And also reported 2 bulls were shot. tremendous amount of money squandered by the BLM in order to try to bully this rancher out of existence. Money that if they... Tremendous amount of money was squandered in this operation, money that could have been used to feed the desert tortoise that the BLM itself euthanized, claiming they didn't have the money to feed them. The lies, the hypocrisy, the corruption, the criminality, the brutality, the illegality, the unconstitutionality of all of this stuff is just striking. But it is not isolated to this area. It is not just ranchers that they're doing this to. They're doing this to all kinds of small businesses. They're doing this to small businesses using Obamacare. Why don't we stand up and shut them down for Obamacare? Just as Harry Reid is handing money to these Chinese power companies, $5 billion deal, Obamacare is a way of driving out many businesses out of business. It's a way of forcing us to buy Cadillac insurance policies, and it is all for the benefit of the insurance companies that are able to sell people insurance policies, Cadillac insurance policies that they had not chosen to buy or could not afford to buy. But Obama has determined that it is better for people to have no insurance than for single young men to not have maternity insurance. That's the kind of absurdity and the kind of transparent hypocrisy and pretense in Obamacare that we've also seen here in this situation, where they're trying to supposedly save the desert tortoise, so they have to destroy the family businesses around this area, taking away their property rights. The government has no authority to do that. The government has no authority to force us to buy a dictated insurance policy. Millions of people have lost their insurance because it doesn't cover the things that Obama is demanding be covered. It is a massive transfer of wealth from America to a few insurance corporations. It was written by the insurance corporations, put through by people like Harry Reid. Oh, sure. This is a live stream. This is on Ustream. This is Alex Jones. Alex Jones Live. Yes, it's on Ustream. Alex Jones, Infowars. All right, there are the cowboys. This was the cavalry when the foot soldiers were standing off the BLM. We got there, we held the territory, and when the cavalry got there, we took the place. All right, looks like the cows have come home, so it's time for us to go get something to drink. This is David Knight for Infowars.com, signing off.